Jonathan Womack, and welcome to this edition of Community Insiders. We take you behind the scenes of a special event at the Black History Museum here in McMinnville, Tennessee. We have with us Jacory Scales and also Mickey Gwynn. He's going to be telling us more about what this event is and what is happening today, an opportunity for all the families to come out and enjoy not only Black History Museum, but also some acting, that and much more on this edition of Community Insider.
The My Usage app is a way to conveniently pay online, anytime, day or night. You can also come by any Caney Fork Electric office and sign up for the prepay option available using the My Usage app. Know exactly how much electricity is used each day and the cost. Best of all, no monthly bill. You can set up email or text alerts, keep track of your usage, and pay your bill, all with the My Usage app from Caney Fork. Caney Fork Electric, keeping you informed.
Security Federal Savings Bank is always pleased to provide virtually every banking service you could ever need. But more than that, we are proud to offer a relationship with you, your family, or your company. We've been here supplying just what you need and building a trust, a relationship. And that's something hard to find these days. Our bankers are here for you, here to help. If you are interested in a relationship, come to the friendliest bank in town, Security Federal Savings Bank, member FDIC.
Welcome to another edition of Community Insider. Join us as we travel Middle Tennessee, uncovering history and experiencing the adventure of unique stories and events coming to you inside your community.
Thank you guys for this opportunity. I guess I'm going to start with you, Mr. Mickey. You have you're no new face to the cameras. You do a weekly show on BLTV Channel 6. You also help tremendously here, being one of the main foundational parts to the Black History Museum. Tell us just about this event, what got you involved with trying to promote something like this.
Well, actually, it all came about as a result of a casual conversation between Helen Martin, who's on our board of directors here at the museum, and Mary Payne, who's on the board out at the Dibrow Memorial Museum. They were talking and said, we need to do something together. And Helen came to me and said, Mickey, we talked about doing something with the Dibrow Museum. What do you think? And I said, I think that's an excellent idea. So we met back in, I guess it's late July, just to come up with a concept. And I sort of threw out there, I said, what about doing some kind of live event, bringing history alive? And everybody looked and said, that sounds great. So I said, let's pick out a couple of characters from the local community, from their past, that maybe we can do. And Mary said, well, I know the perfect person, Miss Pauline Gribble. And I said, well, William Houchin has had a very stoic history here in Warren County. Let's do him. And let's get a couple of actors to play those parts. And we'll make their history come alive, and we'll also have an exhibit in each of the rooms for those individuals. So that's sort of how it came about.
Jacory, this is your opportunity to play a local individual that has, we call it maybe folklore, but really it really happened. The opportunity that he had, regardless of his race, regardless of his color. What does this mean for you playing this role?
It truly is an honor to be able to enact this role for this event, not only because I've grown up in this town my entire life, but also obviously because of my race myself, and just seeing someone like me being so successful in the past really inspires me.
Mickey, for the folks that don't know William's story, just a 2-minute clip of sort of what made this man very prominent in this area.
He came over originally from Virginia with his mother and grandmother, and he used to hang out at the livery stables down on Main Street, and he learned the business, if you will. He learned how to judge horse stock and mule stock, He also learned how to build wagons. So he built a business in the livery business. He sold wagons, he sold horses, he sold mules. And he also, which at that time was very unique, he dabbled in the stock market, made a lot of money in the stock market, but also lost quite a bit of money in the stock market. But with his earnings through the livery stable primarily, he decided he wanted to build an opera house. And he built an opera house on Main Street, McMinnville. For some of us that have been around for a while, that opera house turned into King's Department Store, if you remember from a few years back, if you lived in McMinnville in Warren County. So he went from, uneducated, poverty-stricken to one of the richest men in Warren County.
Your hopes after today, Mr. Mickey?
Well, I hope we can do more things like this in the future. But I hope it brings people into our museums, both of the museums, the one here at the Black History Museum and the Dibble Museum. We need that foot traffic, as we call it, to come in to make our efforts worthwhile. So if we can encourage people to come to our museum, do tours, that's our main concern. We like giving out the history, but we want people to continue to come in to learn more and more history.
Good morning. I'm Jane Flatt, and I am portraying Miss Pauline Gribble, who was the first grade teacher at Dibble School for 44 years. Actually, she was my Aunt Pauline. I'm her niece, and I guess I have a little different perspective on her than her students because I saw her as Aunt Pauline. She was so beloved by the Dibble community because she poured her heart and soul into her first graders. She loved children. She loved the possibilities that they would show in her classroom. And she would be so excited when coming home and talking to us about this particular student or that particular one, and a breakthrough she had that day with that student. She loved her children. So I'm just really honored and so pleased that the Dibble Museum asked me to portray her at this event today, along with the Black History Museum. Both of these museums are fascinating. I hope if you haven't visited either one that you'll take the time to do that. A lot of hard work's been put into both of them. And it's so important for us to treasure our legacies, to look back at the past and see where we need to improve and see where we've done really, really well. But Aunt Pauline was so proud of the Dibble community, and the Gribble family and the Dibble community are so intertwined. My grandfather, Aunt Pauline's dad, helped to establish Dibble College in 1902. It was a two-year college, much like Motlow is today, here in McMinnville. That ran for almost 20 years. That became Dibble High School, and that ran for until 1970, and then it became Dibble Elementary School. And this year, if my math is correct, I think this is 123 years of educating young men and women in the Dibble community. And my Aunt Pauline was a vital part of that. She, when retired I'm going to miss this date. Well, when she retired, she had taught multi-generations. I think at one point she had taught 4 generations of the same family. Isn't that fascinating? And she loved it. I'm just so honored to be here today and to portray my Aunt Pauline.
Hello, everybody. This is Mary Payne.
Peggy Foster.
I am the secretary of the Dibble Museum.
And I'm vice president of the Dibble Museum.
The Black History Museum reached out to us, Miss Helen Martin, and asked us if we wanted to collaborate in an event, and we were gladly and tickled that we were asked. We have a classroom set up as Miss Pauline Gribble's was when in her teaching career at the Dibble School, and I think we've done a pretty good job, and we hope that everybody enjoys what we've done. Okay, the Dibble community was established in 1869, I do believe, and they realized at one time that they needed a post office, and they contacted Colonel Dibble that they had served together, Mr. Potter and Colonel Gribble was together in the Army, and he was a state representative. So Colonel Gribble is one who helped establish the post office, and that is where the name, the Gribble community, came from. They named it from him. Yeah. And it was Gribble was in between McMinnville and Smithville, so they thought that that would be a good middle place to put the post office.
Pauline Gribble. Good morning. It's so good to see you. I taught at Gribble for 44 years. And I did a little math, and I think that's around 900 little boys and girls that I taught at Gribble. Such an adventure I would have. So glad to see you. Good morning. I know who you look like. Good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. So good to see you. And you were such good friends with my mother.
I do remember that. I loved your mother dearly. Yes, ma'am. An excellent teacher. How did I get to be a teacher? My mom and dad were both teachers. Houchin and Belle Gribble in the Gribble community. I had 8 brothers and sisters. You know how many of them taught school? 6. They raised a lot of teachers in their family. I graduated from high school in 1925. And back then, do you know that you did not have to have a degree to start teaching? So I started teaching, and then for 8 months, I would teach after I graduated high school, and then I would attend Middle Tennessee State Teachers College. I know, ever heard of that?
No.
I bet you've heard of Middle Tennessee State University.
That's what I said.
All right. Yes, that's where that became Middle Tennessee State University. And I went on and got my degree there and started teaching at Gribble and was there for 44 years. Yeah, a long time. Yes. And do you know, when I was in high school, I played basketball. I was pretty good. I was. And so when I started teaching at Gribble, they said, would you like to be the scorekeeper for the Gribble High School basketball team? And I said, of course I would. I love basketball. I did that for almost 44 years. And did I see some barn burner? Yes, I saw some fantastic basketball games. And let me tell you, the Gribble boys team went to the state tournament, and I went right with them. And I kept those scores. So I love basketball. Another thing I love is family. And look, here's my great-great-great niece. And my little nephew, Don. Yes. And my great-great niece, Paula. Can you tell we're Gribbles? Look at this nose. Yeah, we're all Gribbles. We're all Gribbles. But another thing that I enjoyed doing when I was in first grade was singing and playing the piano. And all my children would learn songs and we would sing. How many of you were in chapel programs when you were little? Yes. They don't do that anymore, do they? Well, we would have a chapel program, and my children would put on a little skits, and we would sing, and I would play the piano. And I played for a lot of the plays that we used to have, but my favorite thing was to play for high school graduations, because the seniors would come down the aisle in the auditorium, and I would play the pomp and circumstances, and as I would play and see the seniors walk down the aisle, I would remember them as first graders. And I would think, these kids are gonna go do something big. And that was so special for me. I loved that. Well, another thing I dearly loved was reading, and still do. I brought some of my books today that we read in first grade. This was my favorite. This little Bobo in his blue jacket. It's a little worn, as you can tell. And my children also loved Peter Pan. And they really loved Patrick the Fuzzy Bunny, and he really had fuzz on him, but they rubbed it all in. But I loved my first graders, and I loved to read. And I did that for 44 years, and when I retired, I gardened, I traveled, and I took care of family, which I love to do so much. Speaking of family, let me give you a quick little history about my family and the Dearborn community, because they're so intertwined. My dad, in 1901, helped to ask the state for a charter for a 2-year college to begin in Dearborn. In 1902, we started a 2-year college in Dearborn, something like Motlow is in McMinnville today. And young men and young women would come from all over, and they would board. Do you have any idea what that means? They rented rooms from people in the community, and they would go to college there and get their 2-year degree. That went on for 20 years, and my dad was chairman of the board. Houchin Gribble, chairman of the board of Dearborn College. He loved education. He loved for people to learn, and he wanted that for all of the kids in the northern part of the county. And then it became Dearborn High School 20 years later. Dearborn High School started, and that ran until 1970. And that's when the schools were all consolidated. And then it became Dearborn Elementary School, which is still working today. An excellent place for children to get an education. Now, if I did my math correctly, and I'm old, I think that we have had education in Warren County in some form or fashion for 123 years. And yes, it's something to celebrate. And in those 123 years, just think of all the young men and women that were educated there and how they went on to do great things in Warren County and the state of Tennessee and even in the nation. So proud of all my little ones. I love them all. Some were a little harder to love than others, but we got through it. Now, thank you for coming. Is this not a fascinating place? I've walked around and wow, this is fantastic. I'm so glad you're here. And when you get a chance, please come to the Dearborn Museum. It's fascinating too. Speaking of that, the Dearborn Museum ladies have set up a classroom for me at the end of the hall. And I'm going down there and stay in my classroom for a little while. If you'd like to come and visit, I'd love for you to come and visit with me, and we'll talk about teaching and Dearborn and all the good things that happen there. And we might even read a book. Thank you.
Our most famous citizen in Warren County, Mr. William Houchin. William came over from Virginia with his mom and his grandmother back in 1843. He was born on what is now the Warren-Cannon County line. How many of y'all familiar with the Pigeon Hill Road area? That's where he was born. William was born out there. His mother, his grandmother came over. Originally from Virginia, right? Originally from Virginia. Very interesting. William told me his story. His mother and grandmother were actually born on a plantation in Virginia. And their plantation owner was part of the Continental Army for George Washington. And he owned land. When he died, he had in his will that his former freed slaves would divide up his property. But guess what? Couldn't do that in Virginia, could you? Back in that time, freed slaves couldn't own land. So what did they do? William said, my folks did a land swap. They swapped that property in Virginia for property in Tennessee, because at that time, freed slaves could own land in Tennessee. So they moved out there around the Pigeon Hill Road area is what it is now, right there on the Cannon-Warren County line. William really liked horses. He told me he really liked horses and mules and things of that nature. And he used to go down on Main Street to the livery stable where They had, of course, horses and wagons. Now, you couldn't read it then. You weren't educated, were you?
No,
I mean, he didn't get a chance to go to school. But the folks who owned that livery stable and the patrons who came in to buy horses and buy wagons, they taught William how to read.
Got educated real well by them.
Yeah, really did. And he used that education. Initially, you went Nashville as a mechanic, right? Yeah,
Right,
you went down
right.
as a mechanic. Didn't like that. You didn't like that too much.
Wasn't for me.
It wasn't for him. It wasn't for him. So he came back to McMinnville. And one thing that I found very interesting that William told me, that his original last name was not Houchin. His original last name was Standridge.
That's right.
That was the slave owner's name in Virginia. But when he went to Nashville to be a mechanic, what did you do?
Changed my entire name.
Changed his whole name.
Wow.
He changed his name to Houchin when he went down to Nashville. But as he's told me, he didn't really like being a mechanic. He liked being around those horses and mules and things of that nature. He was a pretty good judge of mule stock and horses. I mean, about how many hands a good mule, who knows how many hands a good mule should be? Anybody? How about that? How about how many hands should it be?
8, 10.
8, 10? That's what he said. That's what he told me. He said they should be about 8 to 10 hands high. That's probably a good size for a mule. So William really got into that, but you did pretty good down in Nashville, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, able to come back and
Made me quite a bit of money.
and man, that stable you used to work at, you bought it, didn't you? Yeah, he bought that stable, and it became William Houchin, and he went into business with a gentleman by the name of
It's
William
been so long.
Biles. Who's heard the name William Biles?
All of
You've gone to school in Warren
William
County,
Biles
you've heard the name William Biles.
William Biles.
I've heard Pope Sanders.
Oh, they
Yeah.
used to have a name called Sanders. They sold horses the same place.
Yeah. They went into business together, and they started to sell Mitchell wagons. And we got some pictures in a 3D replica of a Mitchell wagon. And the Mitchell wagon was probably the best wagons you could buy at that time.
Most definitely, yeah.
Yeah, best wagons you could buy. And he also did something you might wonder, it's after Labor Day, is it? William's in all this white. Like, what's wrong with that? That's a fashion faux pas, right? He ain't supposed to be in white.
He can.
He can, because what William told me he used to do is he used to take his team and a carriage down to the train depot. When the train came in, people were going uptown to the hotel. It wasn't the Brown Hotel at that time. It was the Warren Hotel. That's what they called it back then. He would take patrons from the depot up to the Warren Hotel, and this is what he wore. All white. White coat, white vest, pocket chain. Of course, he had a pocket watch in there. And he wanted to make the experience going from that train uptown, even though it wasn't, I mean, you know where, we're right down from Depot Bottom, so it ain't that far. But he wanted to make that trip the best it could be. And he really stood out. People knew him because of his white suit and the patrons he was bringing up from the train station. So that's why he's in white, in case you're wondering. That's why he's in white. That's the reason he's in white today. Something else William told me about himself that really blew me away. He used to dabble in the stock market.
Wow.
Back during a time when you didn't see a lot of people invested in the stock market. And he invested a lot of money in banks, as I remember you telling me, right?
Most of the stock of First National Bank.
He owned most of the stock in First National Bank here in Warren County. And then the recession happened. Lost a lot of money, didn't you, William?
Sure did.
Yeah, he lost a lot of money. He told me somebody asked him, what are you going to do now? You lost all that money. What did you say? Got to just work a little harder, right?
Right.
Got to work a little harder. But he made all that money back. Because he used to travel with Alabama, up north through Kentucky too, I think, didn't you?
All over.
He used to go all over selling horses, judging horses and mules and things of that nature. Interesting story he also told me was when he was on the train going north, till he got through Kentucky, he had to ride in the back of the train while Mr. William Biles was in the front. But once he got through Kentucky, you could go sit with him. They allowed him to sit in the front of the train, and him and William Biles to sit up there and talk. So had an interesting life. Then he wanted to do something with his money. Up until around 1865, I think, as I looked at Warren County's history, any orators who came through, you know, back in the days when they say people would come and speak on the stump, these orators would come through town, they'd go to the courthouse. That was the only place that they could speak. They would go to the courthouse. And William came up with this idea to build what?
The Opera House.
He built the Opera House. He wanted a place where plays, theater productions, things of that nature could have a proper setting. So he built the Opera House right down on Main Street. Now this is going to predate William a little bit because he built the original building. But for those of us who've been around for a while, how many of you shopped at King's department store?
All of us.
That's what King's department store used to be.
We shopped in the basement.
In the basement. That was the original Opera House.
Oh, you went to the basement too?
Yep, that was the original Opera House. He built that in 1889. They showed, of course, theater productions. They had orators who'd come through and speak, writers, things of that nature. They would go to the Opera House. Now, of all things, William, that you could have built, why'd you build an Opera House?
Just giving back to my community. All the things they've done for me.
Yeah, see, giving back to the community. Giving back to the community. So he built the Opera House. Built the Opera House. He also was traveling quite a bit during that time, as he was telling me, going all around the South. Had a big loss. One of the horse barns that he had down in Alabama burned. He lost a lot of mules down there, but William always kept fighting back. Always kept fighting back. But one thing that, sadly, William was telling me, he had some heart problems. He tried to keep this away from his family because he didn't want them to worry. But he did have some heart issues that ended up costing him his life. He died at a young age. But look at him now. He's back. He's back. He's come back to tell his story, looking nicer and younger than ever. And we're glad that you were able to come here and hear about his story. There's a lot of people who tell me, we never knew King's department store was the old Opera House. Unfortunately, an arsonist burned that building back, I think it was 2003. That building was destroyed. We have a little video in the room that talks about that, but all that history was destroyed. But William had the honor, as he told me as he was reincarnated, that he was allowed to be buried in the front part of Riverside Cemetery, which at that time was an honor.
Exactly.
An honor. There's another gentleman that maybe y'all heard, Sam Leftwich, the stonemason. You know that big rock that's highlighted, that's lit up right down there on Market Street? Sam Leftwich was a stonemason. He carved out obelisks and head tombstones and headstones and footstones, all those kind of things. But they wouldn't let Sam be buried in front of the Riverside. He had to be buried in the back. So what did he do? He built the biggest one. If you go down the Riverside Cemetery and you see that real big, about 10, 12 foot tall grave marker in the back of Riverside, that's Sam Leftwich. So he said, I'll show him one way. I'll let you up front, but everybody can see it. But William here, he had the honor of being able to be buried up front because of what he had done for his community. But we want to tell y'all about William today. We're very proud of what he did. History that a lot of us never knew. I never knew. I'm born and raised in McMinnville. Never knew about the William Houchin story until I moved back here in 2005. And that's sort of sad. That's sort of sad. I didn't even know that story. But we're able to tell that story today. We're very proud to have this young gentleman who's a member of the drama class at Warren County High School to come over and work with us today. We're wanting to get more and more of our young people in. But Ja'Cory Scales is playing Williams today. We have an exhibition room down here where these two gentlemen are standing. We have a picture of the Opera House. We have some 3D models of a Mitchell wagon and the Opera House. We even have a video clip that plays about that blaze where they talk about the history of the Opera House and the King department store. So if y'all want to join us, come on and go through, walk through the room. If you got any questions, we're here to answer any questions. But once again, I want to thank you, Ja'Cory, for being part of the presentation today. All right. Thank you all. Thank you.